So hello and welcome back again to Junkyard Summit, and today's video is meron na naman tayong isang budget APU build featuring the Ryzen 3 2200G. I know na medyo similar siya sa ating September 2019 build, I think, which is the Ryzen 3 3200G. Pero this time, we'll try to make it a little bit cheaper. So this entire build will only cost me 15,000 pesos. You might ask, bakit 2200G ang ginamit ko? Well, for one, this is much cheaper as compared to the 3200G. I think the price for this one is just 4,250, yung cheapest na nakita ko. And for the Ryzen 3 3200G, pumapalo pa siya ng mga 5,000 Philippine peso. Again, though yung 3200G ay mas mabilis, yung konting matitipid natin is pwede natin ipunin for future upgrades next time. So ngayon punta tayo sa mga parts na gagamit natin for today. So ayun nga, nabanggit ko na, the processor for this build is the Ryzen 3 2200G. It is a 4-core 4-thread CPU with a Vega 8 iGPU. Again, this is not the most powerful CPU with iGPU out there, but it should be more than enough pag gusto nyo yung mga esports title tulad ng mga Dota 2, Overwatch, Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG. So yun nga, price nito is 4,250, ang pinakamura na nakita ko sa ECPC. For our motherboard naman, what I have here is the Asus EX8320M Gaming. And if you'll remember, ito rin yung ginamit kong motherboard sa ating 3200G build back in 2019. And as much as I want to suggest B350 or B450 motherboards to you guys, meron tayong set na max budget na 15,000, and at this price point, ito lang ang kaya natin i-recommend. At baka itanong nyo bakit ito yung pinili ko. Well, ito lang naman actually ang marirecommend ko out of all A320 motherboards out there. As one, meron tong 4 na RAM slots, which is good for upgrades down the line. And at the same time, meron siyang VRM heatsinks if ever mag-upgrade tayo to a 6-core or even an 8-core CPU down the line. And price-wise, at 2,850 Philippine peso, yung difference niya among other A320 motherboard is just around 300 to 500 Philippine peso. Para naman sa ating RAM, what I got here is the Team Elite DDR4 memories. So these are rated at 2,400 MHz, and these are two 4GB sticks. And since we're running 2 sticks of memory, we could unlock the true potential of our APU as, ayun nga, the Ryzen APUs perform better on dual channel as compared to a single channel. Sa mga nagtatanong bakit 2.4 MHz lang ang kinuha natin, well, for one, kaya naman natin i-overclock to manually, and I think I was able to push it to 3,000 MHz easily. And I'll post my settings down below para if ever kukuha kayo ng the same RAM and the same setup, kaya nyong i-copy-paste yung settings ko. And secondly, ito ang pinakamurang RAM at that time nung binili ko. Actually, a couple of months back, isang 4GB stick nito is just around 900 Philippine peso. Pero lately, nagtaas na naman yung mga RAM prices, especially SSDs. So, lalabas na ito mga 1,000 pesos na. So, 100 pesos more expensive for a single stick. As for our storage, these days, ang recommended na is to get a SSD, regardless kung SATA-based man to or NVMe. So, ayun nga, what I got here is the Kingston A1000 NVMe drive. At that time, nung binili ko, I think late last year, nasa 1,600 pesos lang to for a 240GB drive. And these days, medyo nagmahal na nga ulit lahat ng mga RAM and SSD locally. It's hard to look for an NVMe at these price points. Pero may mga SATA-based pa rin naman na nasa 1.6 price marks. I think meron yung Sandisk Plus na 240GB at 1,650. Before ko pala makalimutan sabihin, if kaya nyo kumuha ng M.2 factor na SSD, it's much better regardless kung NVMe ito or SATA-based na SSD. As going for an M.2 factor will give you a cleaner look and at the same time less cable clutter. As for our PSU, marami tayong options for a sub 2K PSU. Meron dyan yung FSP Hyper K, meron din tayo dyan yung Silverstone Essentials, as well as yung sa Cooler Master and the Corsair VS450. Pero magre-recycle lang kasi ako ng PSU ngayon, and what I have here is the NRMAX Triathlon. If you're asking kung saan ko nakuha to, I bought this at Octagon a few years back, and unfortunately hindi na siya available. And lastly, for our case, what I have here is the Silverstone PS15. And this is a micro ATX chassis that should fit our components easily. Currently, ang price nito is around 2,400 Philippine peso. And if ever gusto nyo makamura pa ng konti, you could always settle for a Rack Halia M or a TechWare Alpha M. Pero kung gusto nyo talaga makamura na makakatipid kayo ng mga 1,800, you could always settle for a generic case which should cost around 500 to 800 Philippine peso. So the total cost of this setup is just shy around 15,000, and may mga optional tayo if ever nakamura pa kayo ng konti. For example, adding an RGB fan. Itong Raid Max fan na to is around 800 Philippine peso, pero ayun nga, it's optional. If ever gusto mo lang ng airflow talaga, there are 150 peso na 12 cm fans. So two of them will just cost you around 300 peso as compared sa RGB or LED lit fan which will cost you 500 pesos and above. And with that out of the way, let's go to the montage of this build as well as some game benchmarks.